I'm your host, Debbie Klughers, and today I have with me some wildlife filmmakers, and I've got Mr. Christopher Gervais, the founder and executive director of the Wildlife Conservation Film Festival. Again, welcome back, Chris.
Seem to be a regular on this show.
You
Thank
are.
you.
You're
Thank
one
you for
of
having me.
my leading guests lately.
It's an honor to be here. I can't thank you enough, but maybe I can start working behind the camera and helping you guys out.
That would be terrific. And you've been bringing filmmakers from all over the world.
We have this year, 2011, we've got filmmakers from all over the world. We've got two extraordinary filmmakers I'll introduce you in a minute, but we have filmmakers coming in from Hawaii, California, Indonesia, France, the Netherlands. Africa, not this year, but next year. We're already planning 2012, so
wonderful.
It'll be a great event this year, and we're hoping for each year to grow more and more.
It's your second year here in the Hamptons.
It is, and we're planning our third year as we speak.
Very good.
Yeah.
Very good. And you ask for volunteers, and
we do.
You're a pretty good guy to volunteer for. You've been easy to work with.
I would hope so. I've always been told that. Of course, you're an asset to our volunteer committee. For people to come to the film festival, it's www.wildlifefilmfestivals, plural, .com, or you can call me directly, 610-896-4776, or stop by Bay Street Theater or the Cremorris Gallery, where we're always looking for volunteers.
It is, and that's for next year, because this is going to air after the festival this year.
We very much want the community involved.
Very good, and children especially.
And children and parents, teachers,
everybody.
Business community leaders. It's important to have them, because it's not just my film festival, it is their film festival.
And I again, thank you for doing it, because you're bringing, we've got all kinds of film festivals, but this is really concentrated on one subject, which is wildlife and conservation. So that's great. And why don't you introduce these wonderful filmmakers?
Speaking of wildlife, I have two extraordinary individuals next to me. I have a wildlife biologist and filmmaker Marshall Case, who's also president of Trust for Wildlife and involved with the American Chestnut Foundation. And then traveling all the way from Hawaii is marine biologist and underwater wildlife filmmaker Charles Fasano.
Wonderful.
Aloha.
I'm also a diver, so I really appreciate you bringing beneath the sea to people that may not have had that opportunity. I think that's really important.
And Marshall has a film this year called After the Oil Spill, Impact on Wildlife, which is what happened last year in the Gulf of Mexico. And we'll be showing a trailer for a film that we'll be showing next year in 2012 about pelicans and puffins. And Charles has a wonderful film called Hawaii's Undersea Ohana. And I'll start off with Marshall, and we'll let them talk about what they're doing and their films.
Thank you, Christopher and Debbie. Pleasure to be here. I like to come out on the island, particularly when I can take the ferry and come across. I learned that that's a better way to go than trying to drive through New York City and then on out. It's a very good ride over yesterday from Vermont.
As long as it's not too rough out there, everything's
actually,
good.
It's beautiful.
Good.
Surprisingly warm. It was a very nice ride. Good. The film is about the aftermath of the Gulf oil spill, and a lot of different articles have been written on it and continue to be written about it. A lot of the truth still is yet to be discovered, I think, in terms of the pretty dramatic impact on wildlife and the habitats. So the film focuses on a little over a year later, and it's fresh film based on interviews with Louisiana fish and wildlife people down in on the Gulf in Louisiana, and seeing what's there now. So some of this film was shot as recently as 3 months ago. So it's really up to date, and we're trying to figure out what the real impact was versus what you always read about from a distance, and to see what we can do about improving the conditions for the wildlife there and how the public can get more involved. And probably more importantly, how we can work to prevent other oil spills from happening. And we have a few projects right now that are called projects underway with our government involved that are very problematic and actually pretty scary if you think about.
Do you talk about renewable energy and wind energy and stuff like that? Because we're having a very exciting new program coming out of New York, off of the New York Bight area. We're having a proposal to put up a bunch of wind turbines out there. So it's something like that could definitely help lessen oil drilling if we can have an alternative.
Yeah, the renewable energy is an area we still haven't really worked on enough.
As
And
a country.
it's still a back burner in a lot of ways. We have the technology, obviously, costs are coming down, and it's really time for the public to start demanding that we get a faster pace on putting it in place.
But in the meanwhile, to make oil drilling safer is a very important issue.
Yeah, we have to be very careful with some of the areas we're talking about, like the Beaufort Sea in Alaska. We worked hard to get that legislation in the 70s. It was a nationwide effort, not really a political effort in terms of government weighing in. It was under President Carter at the time, and a lot of people worked on that very hard-won issue to get these pristine areas set aside. So to go into an area like that, we have to be extremely careful. It's a
We're
very
talking
fragile
about
spot.
a pipeline from Alaska down to the Gulf to process?
Well, that's another issue. That's the tar
that's-
sands. That's
yeah,
Alberta to
that's
Gulf, which is
scary.
another extremely problematic.
It sounds very
project.
5,000 or 7,000 mile pipeline, or?
Well, it's going to go across a major aquifer, and we need to put a lot of public effort into this. Really,
need
it
to
starts
think.
with every individual right now. It's time for everybody to start stepping up to the plate and being part of the process and hopefully getting a good solution to it.
Very good. And you brought a little clip of your film?
Yes,
Want to set that up at all, or should we just roll it?
let's just roll it.
All right, let's check out that film. Oh, you know what? We're gonna watch your film first. So why don't we first talk a little bit about your film and
Hawaii's Undersea Ohana. Yes, it's a story where I've taken Hawaii's marine animals. I show how they're all connected, how they're all intertwined as family, as Ohana, and how the Hawaiians saw these connectivities that were for the betterment of the reef system, where the ancient Hawaiians wrote olelos, proverbs, that assimilated the Hawaiian life, their cultural life, and their societal life with the marine life, because they were really in tune with the marine life. There was a very important portion of they're very dependent.
respected and
Yes, highly respected. They were known as, even as the sharks were known as the amakua, which were the physical embodiments of their ancestors. They were also sustaining, very dependent on the marine life for the sustainability of their populations, of the Hawaiians, the people themselves. There's a great connectivity between all these animals for the betterment of the reef system, for the overall health, and the Hawaiians did see this, and they used those and assimilated and associated to their own cultural society, and that's what this movie tells. The movie is it's not a documentary where it's not an act now type of film. It's not a film where after you see it, I have to save the coral reefs.
okay.
It's
a
more
feel good. It's a
beauty. It's an aesthetically pleasing film where visually I tell the story of I tell the story how they're. I apologize. I'm really bad.
Yeah, you know what though is interesting is that
this gets cut out.
This is something that's from long ago, but this is what's true today, that it is all connected, and ancient people realized it, revered it, renowned it, and today we're forgetting that connection, that we are all connected, and it's very important. If you take one little piece out of that system, you don't know
Then
what's
it
going to
all
happen.
falls.
So I think that your film, I haven't seen it, but it sounds like it's going to show that this connection.
It's an extraordinary film.
The connectivity, and also I want to show the aesthetic beauty of these animals.
Wonderful,
It's a throwback to the
wonderful.
Jacques Cousteau days of just showing these animals in their everyday lives,
Because children
how
today
beautiful
don't
they
get
are.
that. Children today don't know, some of them, who Jacques Cousteau is. They haven't heard of him, so maybe you'll be the Jacques Cousteau.
Well, his granddaughter
kids
will be
today.
at the film festival.
right.
Celine will be there.
Cousteau is,
I look
Their
forward
whole
to meeting
family's
her.
very involved.
And yes, this film is just to show the aesthetic beauty
Wonderful.
of these marine animals that we have in
Very
Hawaii.
good. So let's roll that clip and,
Okay, and
see
this,
what you're talking
real
about.
quick, this is the dolphin sequence from the movie.
That was wonderful.
Oh, well, thank you.
Really
Thank you very much.
beautiful.
If you would like to know more about Hawaii's Undersea Ohana, you're welcome to go to my website. It's www.fasanounderwater.com. It's spelled F-A-S-A-N-O, underwater.com.
And they can learn more about Hawaii's undersea
Ohana.
world and about what your work is.
And my work that I do, yes.
Wonderful. And now we're going to check out your film. Now, are you guys brand new filmmakers? Is it something you do all the time? So these are both your first
It's,
films?
well, the second one for me.
Okay.
Last year I did one on neotropical birds and migratory patterns with
Wonderful.
shade-grown coffee, another topic.
Wonderful. So let's set up your film and we'll cut to that.
Okay, and we're going to look at the beauty of what we could lose and are losing, as well as what people can do about it. But it's from people who are there on the scene who work with wildlife.
Real people.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Let's check that film out.
It was oil all through here, and there was nobody out here cleaning it up. And it could have been a lot worse, no doubt, even, had we had more oil or whatever. But, with what we had that came ashore, I just think that there should have been much better coordinated efforts to take care of that stuff, to prevent it from coming ashore. There was ample time.
As the oil moved in, this otter got slammed at least 5 times with oil. And every time an oil layer came, here came some new vegetation, some wash, some rack from storms and stuff, and covered it up. So as you keep going down, as you can see, you still got oil layers lower and lower and lower. But if we let them dig it all the way and keep pulling this stuff out, we ain't gonna have no more island left. It's all gonna wash away.
We're on a wildlife management area, which, affords protection. It's owned by the state of Louisiana, by the Department of Wildlife and Fisheries, owned and managed. And then adjacent, we have a federal refuge managed by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. About 200,000 acres of protection. So we have a physical presence here in terms of personnel, which affords a lot of the wildlife that utilize this area, a great deal more protection than would get, say, on private land or something, of that nature, where, areas that are not manned or protected or managed. Where does that keep coming from, Clint? Jeez.
It's layers. We have layers.
This is where they picked a lot of stuff
Yeah,
up.
they dug all this up.
You get kind of complacent, you forget about it, out of sight, out of mind kind of thing. And when if I don't come out for a month and kind of, you put it on the back burner, or you think, well, it's being cleaned up and it's a lot better, and then you come out here and see it's not a whole lot different. So you get another, 20 degrees up into the mid-90s or close to 100 out here during the middle of the summer, and you're going to have oil oozing probably out of this substrate. But lots of secretive marsh birds like rails and other birds utilize this habitat. If you get it re-exposed into the system, then that can trail down to a beach where you have a lot of shorebirds or terns or other water birds, waders and such. And, anything's worth doing. Whether or not they're making a big impact, it's hard to tell. It's going to be difficult to assess. But Clinton and them know, and they stay out here. We have crews that stay out here and monitor it. And, they're doing anything they do is something positive for the most part. If we're involved in it to make sure they're not doing more damage than good.
what the guys back there were doing were they dig test holes and they're looking for tar patties. And when they find the tar patty, they scrape off the top layers of clean sand, and then they scoop out the contaminated sands. And the contaminated sand, obviously, they bag it up, and then they put the clean sands back on top to try and fill the hole back up. Because we have an erosion problem, and we want to keep as much of our sand as we can here. And that's where we have Wilson's plover nesting, and we want to keep the activity to a minimum around those areas, because they don't like disturbance. They're trying to raise their nests there, and we like to keep people away from it as much as possible.
The oil itself has come on the island, and also just the boom that was placed on there has probably done some damage to the island too, you think? Yeah. A lot of this island that used to be solid mangrove with good vegetation top to bottom. Now you've got a lot of this bottom that's opened up areas, so a lot of these birds are down nesting there on the ground. So it's not going to take much of an elevation of water, just a small storm, to take out those ground nesting birds.
But and Marty mentioned the boom. I mean, boom was an issue because it's such a high energy environment, as you can tell just from being out here with this wave action. They couldn't anchor boom very well. A lot of that boom got washed off onto the island and broke the mangroves. And this whole end of this north end of this island is much different last year. A lot of healthy mangroves now, and like Marty mentioned, many of these birds are now nesting essentially on the ground, and that's not good for any kind of, even a tropical system with a high tide of say 2 or 3 feet is going to jeopardize many of these nests.
Flooded the marshes and on the edges, and it killed a lot of pulse larvae that came in March and April. And when the season did open, everything was closed. You couldn't make a dollar anyway. So, and it's still killing. It's got to kill them. They had so much in there because they go into the marshes, and that's when they go to stay away from predators, and they grow. Then after they grow, they come back out into the Gulf. We're not seeing that here in Barataria Bay this year. What's going to happen in the years to come? The oil did the damage, and it's still doing damage. And we just have to wait. And nobody really knows what's going to happen, but I know it.
The general public is they're tired of it. They don't want to hear about it anymore. There was not a big cry when this was all shown 2 weeks ago for the anniversary. There wasn't a big public outcry like, wow, look, there is still all this going on. Well, that's human nature. You get tired of the negative stuff, I guess, but it's real, and it still needs to be, not like it was last year by any means, but there are cases, like here today, that places like this that still need to be addressed.
That was wonderful, Marshall. Thank you for reminding us that it's not over. It's not by any means back to the way it was before the spill.
Thank you. You
So
can see
that's
the beauty of the
important.
birds. This is what we need to work to protect.
Absolutely.
And keep them as much as we can where they are, build the populations back up. And the issue, as was stated, people forget quickly
Yes.
today. Things move on,
It's
but
out of
this
the
is still
news.
there.
And, wow.
So, and if people want to learn more about it, they can go to the website, www.neotropicalbirds, all one word, .org. That connects to the migratory birds that we work on as well.
And any closing comments on how the public can get involved more and help out, and anything to make a difference for two totally different areas and different species you're both concentrating on, but any advice that the public can?
I like the statement of think globally but act locally.
There you go.
Anything in your real local towns that you could do to help out. Nature Conservancy, Ocean Conservancy work, even assisting with the Department of Aquatic Resources. Well, every state is going to be different. That's what they have in Hawaii. Just in your local town. You don't have to go and help clean up oils down in Louisiana. Just what you do in your local town will help out a lot.
Whatever
Local
you
recycling.
feel a connection to, go out there and help that group, and maybe donate some money if you can't physically get out there. And
Correct.
Marshall?
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely coming to local presence. We're going to have to take on more responsibility as communities, which we've been good at. That's how we built this country, and we need to get back to a lot of the basics. We've had some pretty severe storms recently, and it showed how people come together, and they take charge of their own destiny. And we need to do that to protect the wildlife systems, and if we do it, as you're suggesting, that will be the most powerful way to move forward. So I agree with that, the local effort, and while connecting to
Sometimes
other people.
we forget that we're sharing the planet. This isn't our exclusive home.
We don't own it.
We don't own it. A lot of us,
Yeah.
people do think that they do, but it's actually, we're all sharing it, we're all in it together, and every creature's important.
And a recent challenge was the tar sands, which you had mentioned earlier, and we had a couple thousand people arrested with a peaceful demonstration in Washington just in the last month.
Right.
For trying to call attention to a major issue. So I think the public, where you are, do your best job there, and then come together as can to make a larger statement. But
Right.
if we don't do it, it's not going to happen.
And it's for the future.
Yes.
It's for what we leave to the future generations. We want to at least try to leave them a little bit of the beauty that we get to enjoy.
We belong to the earth. The earth does not belong to us. And as Charles said, as Marshall said, those who have ability to make donations to global or local conservation organizations do so, but you can get out there. I mean, I was on Long Beach the other day in Sag Harbor, and someone had left their trash there, and I actually saw a seagull ingest an entire Ziploc bag.
Wow.
That seagull is probably dead by now because it was a
terrible.
Ziploc bag yay big, which had food in it, and the bird couldn't get to the food, so it actually swallowed the bag. And as we know, plastic kills millions of seabirds and sea turtles and whales and dolphins throughout the year. And if people get back to the basics, as Marshall and Charles said, and focus on their own community, then the world will be a much better place.
And teach the kids in school and at home the importance of protecting these beautiful natural habitats. Thank you, Charles and
Thank you,
Marshall and Chris once again. Thanks
for
for coming
having
on
all
Keepin'
this.
It Green. And come back again.
Sure will.
Come
Look
visit.
forward to it.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.